So tell me a little bit more about yourself and just kind of give me a rough overview of what Plabook is.
Right. My name is Philip Hickman, and you know I used to be in the field of education, immersion education. So I did everything that you can think of in education, as far as a teacher, principal, assistant principal, dean of students, director of education, assistant superintendent, and superintendent. I was in administration early, around the age of 25, 26. I was a principal. I was a superintendent at age 36, which is kind of rare.
Very impressive.
Yeah, and some of the areas were in Chicago, St. Louis, Kansas City, Houston, Texas. I was in Houston, Texas. We had 300 schools, 210,000 students, so the seventh largest school district in the nation.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
210,000?
210,000 students.
My
high school.
I don't think my district had more than 10. Like I know my high school itself has like
1,000.
less than 1,000 people.
Yeah, some of our schools we had 4,000 students at high schools. Even when I was in the Chicago area at my one of the elementary schools I was a principal, we had 900 students, 82% ELL, habla español poquito. And so it's kind of a diverse area. Then also in Mississippi, which was a smaller district, about 5,000 students. Throughout my journey, I've always had a technology focus. It started when I was real young. Did a couple of podcasts on it where my father was a UPS driver. Before he drove diesel trucks, he actually drove the local packaging, delivering packages local. Did a lot of it in the Brookside area, Leewood, Overland Park. And the reason why that's important is because back in the days, in my days, that's where a lot of people were just now emerging with personal computers. And my father would go there, and that culture was that you buy a new computer, you use it to its max, and you buy another one, and as opposed to understanding the dynamics of the motherboard and switching out memory and those kind of things. And so my father would either get a computer or he would buy it for cheap. And so I started out with things like Commodore 64. And so the compact and all those kind of things, and so as a kid, I would receive those devices and just kind of have my way with them. And just a learning aspect of it. I'm sure I tore up some of it, but it had the floppy disk and those kind of things, and so that started my passion with technology. And it's the same thing that he was able to get all the used video games. So I had Atari, and I had everything digitally you could think of, robotic arms, those kind of things. And so as a kid, I had a real good advantage, even though I grew up in Kansas City, had a real good advantage of having exposure to technology. And then at one point in time, my brother and sister, I think it was my brother per se, but they had to go to summer school. And, we're a family of, we had 4 kids. My little sister wasn't born yet, but so it was 3 of us, and if they went to summer school, then I had to go.
Right.
Right, I couldn't be home by myself, and so the only class that was available left for me in an advanced class was actually computers. And so I learned DOS and the blue screen and all those kind of things, in my era that we were kind of dabbling with. And like I said, it just kind of grew from there. And that was always my personality when I was in the school systems. And so, we were one of the first successful school districts, especially in Houston, to kind of roll out the 101. But we did a lot more than that. It wasn't just rolling out the devices. We really looked at, what kind of software, what kind of instructional mindset our teachers need to have, and how do we prepare our students for the future, as opposed to just kind of doing more point and click and gaming with those devices. So we were very successful in that. We did something. We had 55 high schools that were 1-to-1. We also were.
So is that devices to students?
That's
devices
crazy.
to students, yeah.
That's great.
I don't even
I was right at the end of high school where we did it. We had computer labs, smart board in every room.
Yeah.
But students did not have a device.
Shawnee Mission South, I think, is one of like the only one of the only schools that's 1-to-1 in Kansas. Like I don't even know. Yeah, I don't know if
I
there's
think ours
many
is
1-to-1.
now. Our
Yeah,
district
they should be now.
is
I mean,
on to
All of them?
They should be. I mean, that's old. See, so really, you shouldn't be talking about 1-to-1. You really should be talking about how to actually utilize those devices, have supporting software,
Probably,
you know, that kind of aspect of it. Because a lot of times what happens, we went 1-to-1 and people just kind of sat and relaxed. Like they had the devices for students, but they didn't necessarily utilize them right.
It was like Palm Pilots when I was like in 5th grade.
Yeah, but the Palm Pilots, yeah, and so it's just kind of, you know, the conversation needs to shift beyond just dispensing the devices to students and really talking about the utilization of them.
Yeah.
And there's even a great divide. I know I recently read an article, and actually the Overland Park and the Chamber were supporting this article. It's a little different. It was talking about the fact that they feel that students have too much screen time, and so they want to go back to the basics, which is scary. It's very scary for someone to think that, you know, that the students are having too much screen time and we're not preparing them for the future, because that's actually not true. And one of the comments in the article, it said that, you know, my child is not going to know how to do a job interview, you know, which lets us know how we keep going backwards in education, because, you know, I've done, I don't know how many job interviews online. You know, video interviews, and so it is preparing children for their future. We got to understand that, you know, this is becoming more of a digital society. But with that said, one of the problems that I was having within our education system is that, you know, we have 72% of our children, especially like in Kansas City, 72% of our children read below the 3rd grade level, and that's shocking. You know, education, which I tell people all the time, which is one of the most important industries to our society, is one of the few, if not only, industry that is allowed to function at a 28% success rate. Like, that's beyond the F. That's beyond failure. You know, that's creating an environment that is, and they actually have one of the most important products that they're producing, and that's a productive citizen, right?
Yeah, it's an investment. It's the only like investment for real.
Right, and so it's kind of scary just to be satisfied with that kind of push. And one of the things that, you know, reading, which is very important skill for someone to be successful. I mean, it just has so many negative consequences. I mean, when you talk about the prison industry, where you have, you know, around 80-some% of prisoners that read below the 3rd grade level, or have some kind of reading deficit or reading problem. When you look at that, it's tied to, you know, 70-some% of dropouts, you know, have a reading issue or those kind of things. And so it's something, like you said, that we really want to invest in. And to think that the greatest innovation to reading, to a book, is the Kindle and iPad, which that's 2008. That's a 10-year-old model, and all that is a PDF on a screen.
Right, just swiping.
Yeah, that's it.
You could highlight some things.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they call it a immersive reader, which means you can make the font larger and highlight and those kind of things. But it's really a PDF on a screen. Yeah. And our children are not fooled by that. And so when you look at, you know, my 17-year-old, he's kind of a hybrid. You know, he prefer print, then he prefers the book on the screen per se. Yeah. But my 13-year-old, I mean, he's basically already bored with your Kindle or iPad. I mean, they want to be immersed. You know, they're on the internet all day. They're dealing with YouTube and those kind of things. And that kind of was a catalyst of inventing Plabook, which is a very innovative reading platform that considers how the brain works, and it considers how children are engaged in the reading process. And so it combines immersive media, so 360, panorama, augmented reality, and those kind of things, and it mixes it with a reader in a sense. And so it's agnostic on any phone or tablet, and to me it's what it does. It brings reading to the digital age, and that's important for our children, because the skills that are necessary in reading, you know, there are 2 new skills that have to be incorporated in literacy in the reading process. One of them is engagement, which is a no-brainer. We have to have our kids engaged in order to be able to read and the literature.
Yeah.
And the other one is media literacy. They think about it. I mean, my son, if he sends me a text, my 18-year-old or my 13-year-old, it has a GIF, it has a emoji, and then it has a few words, and I'm trying to figure out what the heck is he trying to convey. But the research is clear. I mean, you can even take a GIF, that looping video, and a person can learn more and actually get emotionality from a GIF than they could read a paragraph.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, just to understand mixed media and be able to convey thoughts in mixed media is very important to our future generation.